So in 2017, the company was, I guess, probably at a quarter of where I ultimately got it to, if that. But it was very successful and very promising. A business contact that I had, um, he suggested that I meet with a fellow by the name of Bruce Harbinson, who was the then chair of a couple of tech groups, and she's a peer group for entrepreneurs and business owners. This mutual contact said, you really must, you get great, all sorts of benefit out of it. And I remember thinking, the last thing I need is a club of self-important, puffed up business people who are all going to stand around and pat themselves on the back on how special and rich they are. And I thought, oh God, no, this is just not me. But I humored my friend and I went and met with Bruce, and he asked me all sorts of questions about the business and seemed like, a decent fellow. And so he invited me to join one of his tech groups, and I will be forever grateful for the fact that he did. And particularly, he invited me to join the one group that he had, which was just a group of incredibly successful, dynamic businesses. And the first thing I thought is, what in heaven's name am I doing here? Because these businesses were all, not all, but many of them were like 300 million, 500 million, 800 million in revenue, and, hundreds of employees, and, there were locations everywhere. And I thought, I am not worthy. What am I doing here? Oh my gosh, I just felt so insignificant. So there was that thought. But then the second thing that it occurred to me as I sat there for that day, is how real these people were and how open they were and humble. And while they all deserve to be wildly arrogant because they're so successful and intelligent and capable, they weren't. And, the interesting thing as I listened to them is in some ways they were dealing with the same problems as me. I mean, sometimes larger scale, of course, but they, there'd be people sitting there saying, my CFO's got to go. And people would say, you've been saying that for a year and a half. I mean, it's that same sort of thing as like, sometimes when an employee's, you got to move them along, right? And we've all been there, right? And I thought, wow, these are real people, and they were nice and welcoming. And so I carried on with that. Bruce Harbinson was the chair of my particular group. And he had a couple roles. Firstly, just getting us together, but he curates the group that you're sitting with, that you're spending time with, to make sure that the people are at the right caliber for that particular group. And then he would basically go find really good speakers. He didn't just get halfway speakers. He got some phenomenal speakers with a lot of value, that they could add value. That when we would get speakers in, I'd be writing pages of notes, and your brain is suddenly exploding with ideas and new ways of thinking about things, totally new perspectives. And so Bruce was instrumental in making sure that we got the right speakers, high quality speakers, and these people were coming from all over, particularly the US. He would fly them in for us. And then I would also get one-on-one time with Bruce, where he became intimately involved with my business, and he would hold me to account. And he would say, all right, what are your goals? And he would hold me to account to meet them, and he'd be pushing. And also he'd say, all right, so I might know somebody who can help you with this, or I might say, because his Rolodex is immense. So he would put you in touch with others who could be of assistance in whatever step I was taking at the time. And there is no question that for, oh gosh, the longest time I felt completely out of my element. But the learning curve was immense. Just listening to what they are doing, learning from them, having them probe and push me. The speakers that we would get were transformational. And if it hadn't been, there is no question in my mind that if I had not joined that peer group, and maybe even that particular one, I don't know, I'm very partial though, but I'm sure others are very good too. If I had not joined that peer group, there's no way I would have achieved what I did with Norwood. Not even close. It would have kept growing. I was doing fine. There's no way, like that, you can almost see. So I was growing at, I don't know, at that time, maybe 15% a year. Not bad, right? Then you can see it really ramp up, like hockey stick up, after I joined tech. Yeah, it just amplified everything. It was absolutely transformational. Yeah. And I'm still with Bruce Harbinson in another, he has his own peer group now that he's curated, and I'm still definitely a loyal member.